Hello and welcome to the channel Windows versus Linux. If you're running a computer that has any version of Windows installed, I'm guessing that at some point you've installed programs yourself that didn't come pre-installed with your machine. That could be anything from a new browser, an antivirus software, anything along those lines. Well, in this video I want to mainly cover the differences between how to install software on Windows versus how to install software on Linux. And there's actually a few different ways that you can install software on Windows, so I would encourage you to watch this video in its entirety. But if you'd like to skip ahead to the Linux side of things, I'll put the time in the description for when that part of the video starts. And I will start by saying that I will not be covering how to install software from a CD because pretty much everyone has done that if you've used Windows. And it's starting to become kind of a thing of the past unless you get specialty software like Photoshop, QuickBooks, antivirus programs, things like that. So I'm just going to be covering how to install basic software in this video. And the other thing is I'll be covering how to install these things from slowest to fastest. So it'll basically be in progression of how to quickly install software. So we'll go ahead and jump into the Windows side of things and we'll start from there. Okay, so now that we're in Windows, we can go ahead and start. And probably the first and foremost way that most people would install software, for instance, this is a Windows 10 computer. Aside from a few different recording things and some editing software, this is basically a fresh install of Windows, which means that my only browser that I have is Microsoft Edge browser, which is this little E right here. So let's say that I wanted to install Spotify, which is a music listening CD or a music program that allows you to listen to music, and I wanted to install Google Chrome. So first I would go to Internet, and I would have to go to each of their websites. So Spotify.com, and then you'd look for the download wherever the download button is, and download the program. And as you can see right here, it's wanting to run or save that program. Again, you do the same thing for Google Chrome. If I could type. You'd go to their website, look for the download button, etc. So this is the slowest way to install software on Windows, and it's probably the way that most people know about. It's probably the way that you've installed software if you've ever used Windows before, which I'm sure you have. And it's very sluggish, it's very slow, it's very time consuming, it's not very streamlined that you would get like on something like a mobile phone, for instance. So if we close this, that's the first way, and like I said, the slowest way. The second way is a little bit faster, but a little bit iffy as well, I guess, but it's the Microsoft Store, which usually Windows will ship with an icon for it on the taskbar. But you can also search for it in the Start menu by just typing Store. So if we go into that, this is more like what you would see with Google Play or Apple App Store if you use any kind of smartphone. And it's basically just a big app store. So up here at the top you can see different links for different things. You can go to movies and TV, extensions, games, but what we're interested in is the apps. If we go to apps, again, you can just look through this to see if there's anything that suits your fancy. But if you just go to the search, and we'll do the same ones, so we'll type Spotify. And as you can see here, under apps, we have Spotify Music, so if I just click that, it gives me the option to install right there. Okay? Same with Chrome. If we wanted to install the Chrome browser, maybe. Okay. What if we try Google Chrome, see if that comes up. Alright, so it actually looks like Google Chrome is not eligible to be downloaded from the Microsoft Store. But like I said, this is a little bit faster than going onto the websites and installing it from the website. So you could try this first to see if the app is within the store, and if not, then you could resort to going to the actual website. But the quickest way to install more common software, this is not eligible for all software, but it's good for the majority of the free stuff that's out there. If you go to your web browser, and in the search bar if you type ninite.com, Ninite.com, this is a really good website for installing software in bulk. So you have different categories, as you can see. So I can install Chrome, and all you do if you want to install it is just check the little box next to it. Imaging, you have different image editors here. Here's the GIMP that you would normally get with Linux. Here's Spotify, so I'll click that one. You can install different antivirus programs. A whole bunch of stuff here. This OpenOffice right here, this is similar to LibreOffice in Linux. This is a free version, essentially, of Microsoft Office. So it has, as you can see if I hover over it, free Office suite. So it has a Word editor, it has a spreadsheet editor, all of that good stuff. So as of right now, I have Chrome ticked and I have Spotify ticked. So all you would do is scroll down a little bit more and click Get Your Ninite. Okay, and it's just like any piece of software. You just run that program. Okay, authorize it, and then it'll go through and download each of the programs that you had checked and install them for you. So if I let that run, you'll see that they'll start to appear on my desktop. So that is the three main ways that you can install software on Windows. Like I said, the slowest and bulkiest way is to go to each website of the software that you want and hunt around for the download button, which can sometimes be a hassle in and of itself because they tend to hide it on you. And then you have to walk through the installation process, etc. The Microsoft Store is a little bit faster in the fact that it doesn't really, you don't have to deal as much with the installation wizards or the installation setup installers. It just installs itself and you're good to go. But like you saw, you may take a chance that some software is not available for you, as we saw with Google Chrome. And then of course this Ninite page is much quicker at installing the more common software. So if it's on this site, all you have to do is tick it and hit Get Your Ninite, and it will install. And as you can see, it already installed Google Chrome, and now it's going to install Spotify. Okay, it says finished. There's our two programs. So that's the quickest way that you can install software on Windows. And now, in comparison, we'll go ahead and jump over to the Linux side of things, and I'll show you how to do the same things on Linux. Okay, so here we are in Linux Mint, and I will tell you that you are a little bit more limited with how you install software on Linux, because if we were to go to on the internet, and like I said, Firefox is the standard browser with Linux, so this will come installed by default. If we go to online, you'll find that you actually can't go to websites and install software that way. Similarly, you can't really go to Ninite and install software from there, and the reason for that is because all of the online installers will use a .exe file extension, which is an executable file extension. So if I were to check any number of these and then hit Get Your Ninite, you'll find on Linux that that actually won't work. And just as similar, you can't go to something like Google Chrome's website and install Google Chrome from their website, because the exe file extension does not work in Linux. Now that's kind of a double-edged sword, because while you can't install software from online, you also typically don't get a lot of the viruses that are made for Windows, because those also use exe file extensions. So it's kind of a good and a bad side to it, but it is what it is. So generally, the best way to install software on Linux is from the software manager. So this, I guess, would be the slowest way to install software on Linux. You could use command line, which will greatly speed the process up, but like I said, I know a lot of new users do not like the command line. They actively try to avoid it. So I will not be covering how to do that in this video, but I will say if you do get accustomed to Linux and you are more familiar with it, the command line, you can actually install a lot of things very quickly from it. But this would be your software manager. I guess this is the main page. So you can go through, you can look at the different editors picks. I guess these are like the top downloadable apps. And again, this basically acts like your app store on either Apple or Android. So if you've ever used a smartphone and you've ever installed software on a smartphone, this is essentially the same kind of thing, just as the Microsoft Store. So you have like Dropbox, you have VirtualBox, which is a virtual machine emulator, Audacity, which is audio recording. So you have a lot of good solid apps at the top. You also have categories down here, which you can look at all the apps in those categories, like Internet. We could go into Internet, and it'll show you all of the apps related to the Internet. So for instance, if we wanted to install Chrome as a default browser, Chrome is not available on Linux App Store, but they do have Chromium, which is the open source version of Chrome. So you could install this. All you do is click on it and hit install. Very similar to how the Microsoft Store is. Same with Spotify. If I type Spotify, that should pop up. Yep, Spotify. Again, you just click on it, hit install, and it will install those apps for you. So this is the more recommended way of installing apps on Linux, because all of these come from what are called the official repositories. And basically what that is apps that are geared for Linux that have been approved by the community. So typically you won't get any malicious malware in these, you won't get anything that's using bad code, anything like that. So these should all be safe to use. But again, this would be the slowest way to install software on Linux. The quicker way, which is actually more similar to Ninite.com on Windows, is the Synaptic Package Manager right here. And I believe this does come pre-installed with Linux Mint, so you should get this right out of the box. So I'll click that. Close this one. It will ask you for your password, which I will give it. Now, this program does look scary when you first open it to a new user. It's really not. It's very simple to use, actually. You'll get this pop-up the first time you open it. If you want to show this every time you open it, you just click this. If not, just close it. So there's really only two main things you need to know about this program. One is the search, and the other is the apply button. So all you would do, like, let's say I wanted to install Spotify. So I would just click search, type Spotify, and hit enter. But what this will do is it will go out and search for everything related to Spotify. So a lot of these things you won't even need to look at. And it gives you a description on the right here. As you can see, all you have to do is look for whatever says Spotify. So the Spotify client, in the description it says Spotify Streaming Music Client. So if I click that, it gives you the option to mark for installation. Another way to do it is just double click it, and it will automatically tick it for you. So that is ticked, so that's ready to be installed. If I go back and search for Chromium, which again is the open source version of Chrome, you'll see all of these things related to Chrome, but the only thing you need to know about is the Chromium browser right here. And again, you can read the descriptions to find which one exactly you need. So this is the one we're after. So I double click that. Now this, whenever this pops up, this is telling you, hey, there's some other things I need to install with this to make it work. So whatever it says here, you just hit mark and it will mark those as well. So it needs this in order for this to work. Okay? So if I hit apply right now, it'll tell me to be upgraded, to be installed. So we're going to install the Chromium browser and the Spotify client, and everything else is unchanged. You can also uninstall programs the same way through this program, but I'm just going to leave it as is and hit apply. So what it's doing is it's going out and finding those programs from the Linux repositories and then installing them for you in bulk. So however many programs you want, if you know what they are, you can just search for them, mark them to be installed, and then just apply, and it will install everything that you've marked before closing this program. And like I said, if you ever install a version of Linux that has a lot of programs you don't want, you can do the same thing. You can go in here, type the name of the program, and mark it for uninstallation, and do the same thing that way. So it's really good for installing programs in bulk, and it's also good for uninstalling programs in bulk. So as you can see, it downloaded the files it needed, and it's going to go through and install that software. So we'll just give that a minute, and then we'll see if it actually installed. Now you do have this option to automatically close after the changes have been successfully applied. If we tick that, it should automatically close this once it's done, and just take us back to the original program. Okay, so it has closed that, and it just takes us back to this, which we are just going to close. Okay, so as you can see, it has installed this, so now this is green, whereas everything else is white because none of it was installed. So we'll close this, go to our Start menu. If we go to Internet, you'll see we have the Chromium web browser, and under Sound and Video we have Spotify. So we'll click that to see if it works, and there you go. You have Spotify installed and Chromium installed. So that is the different ways to install software on the Linux side of things. That both of these methods apply to pretty much every distribution of Linux. Like I said, if you ever get comfortable with Linux enough to use the command line, this can make things much quicker. Basically, you just type a couple commands and it will install as many pieces of software as you want. But like I said, for the sake of these videos, I'm not going to worry about command line. I know it scares a lot of new users. It scared me when I first got into Linux, but once you get the commands down, it's really not that hard. But that is how to install software on Windows and Linux. I hope you learned something, and I hope if you are starting to get into Linux that helps you get the programs that you need. In the coming videos, I'll probably make a little mini-series on how to get Windows programs to run within Linux or alongside Linux. So if there is a piece of software that you just have to have that Linux doesn't provide, you may find those videos helpful. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in that series. Thank you very much.